Hello everyone, Cappuccino here, and I'm starting a new series called Tips on Climbing the Competitive Ladder, which will feature specific gameplay tips that helped me climb during my competitive ladder experience. A little bit about me: I started around gold rank and over the past many seasons climbed all the way up to master's rank. It wasn't easy, but I learned a lot of general tips and best practices as I continued playing. I've also reviewed over 20 VODs from other players, most of them uploaded to my channel, so I've been able to get a good perspective on common mistakes players make in many levels of play. Now I'm excited to share my number one climbing tip in this first video, so let's get it started. The number one tip for climbing is to play the corners of the map and use coverage. Whether you are a squishy Zenyatta, a Reinhardt with a shield, or a Pharah flying in the air, playing the corners and using coverage greatly improves your survivability, which is very important in this game because dying is the worst thing you can do. It seems like a very simple concept, but it makes a humongous difference if done consistently over all games. Let's start with a very simple example. Zenyatta on Rialto. Usually Zens start off pretty well. They position around a corner, and even after that, when falling back to the second corner, it's usually okay. But as the fight goes on, you soon find yourself in the middle of the map in all of the chaos and kind of forget to play around a corner or play around cover. You have to assess the map and look for where's the next corner I need to transition to. So in this case, here's a good corner that you should fall back to for number 3. You can still maintain a presence. Over here is another corner you would fall back if the payload is continually pushing. And over here is another corner you would fall back to where you still have some presence. And yeah, you just keep doing it as the payload gets pushed. In summary, during a fight, you want to constantly minimize the amount of time you are out in the open, especially when you're transitioning between cover points. Here's a top-down view courtesy of a tool called Stat Banana. As you can see here, the Zen is bouncing back and forth between different cover points instead of moving in a linear pattern. This issue is constantly also seen with tanks, especially Reinhardt, where you have a 2000 HP barrier and you feel invincible and you feel like you could play out in the open like this right here in Junkertown. But as soon as that shield breaks, you're out in the open and it's very easy to take damage, possibly die. But even if you don't die, you're taking away attention of your healers who could be healing someone else. So yeah, you want to play these corners. You want to look around the map. Here's a corner right here that you can play and fall back to after starting from that corner up there, and you would keep falling back. Then you would start playing this corner right here where you can peek out. You can keep your shield up, but as soon as it gets low, you want a corner to fall back to. So right here, right after the bridge, you would shield and you could play around this corner behind the 2 bins. Right here is kind of a dangerous spot. There's a lot of open area, so sometimes it's okay to give them some space and not play in this open area right here, but move back to this little shack where you can play the corner as well. As I mentioned, you want to actively think, what is the next corner I should fall back to? And initially it takes some time to think about it, but once you practice it enough, it becomes second nature and you don't have to think as hard. So on every map, constantly identify every corner. So here on Volskaya, when you're attacking, there are 4 corners you can usually push up to. And those 4 same corners can be used for defense as well, inversely. So if you're defending, you would defend on the other side of point 1, the other side of point 2, point 3, and point 4. So analyzing cover on the attack phase can also help you on the defense phase and vice versa. Let's take a look at some areas where you typically don't have much cover. So right here in Eichenwald, it's a pretty dangerous spot. You don't want to play out here in the open. There's very little cover, maybe this little corner right here, but overall you don't want to be here. Instead, you want to use the payload as mobile cover. And as you're pushing, you can use it pretty much as a moving corner, a piece of cover that enemies can't see you, or you can just peek behind as you fight and push the payload. In 2CP maps where it's very easy to be in the open contesting a point, you want to still try to find little pieces of cover. Like for example, this little pillar right here, I see a lot of players not use it, where you can contest the point and also have a little piece of cover to protect you. Even for a flying character like Pharah, you don't always need to be in the middle of airspace out in the open. Even if you're still in the air, you can utilize the architecture to give yourself coverage. Pharah actually has more options, being that she can utilize all sides of a building. In Hollywood, you can slightly pop over the roofs to get rocket shots on the enemies, and while pushing in, you can hug the edges of buildings, transitioning from one place to another. In summary, minimize the amount of time in the open and utilize corners and cover. Once you start consciously thinking about this, you will find yourself dying less and making more of an impact in your games. Thanks for watching this video, and hopefully you found my tip helpful. If you enjoyed it, please leave a thumbs up on this video and stay tuned for future videos in the Climbing the Competitive Ladder series.